This is Sky News, the headlines at 5 o'clock. Up to 1 million people displaced in the worst floods to hit the Indian state of Kerala for a century. Sky News is on the ground with the rescue efforts. Getting ready for a no deal, the government prepares to publish advice on what to do if Brexit negotiations fail. Rescued at sea, a British woman is found alive 10 hours after falling from a cruise liner. Genoa tries to return to normal, but residents face months of disruption. Chaos at the borders as the Venezuelan government prepares to relaunch the currency. Answering God's call, the Church of England reveals a rise in the number of people wanting to become priests. Very good afternoon to you. The Indian military is battling to get medicine and drinking water to thousands of people in the southwest of the country after some of the worst flooding there for more than a century. Well, at least 350 people have died in Kerala state, and as many as 1 million have been left homeless after days of unusually heavy monsoon rain. Despite a brief let-up in the downpours today, officials are appealing for international assistance as they try to prevent outbreaks of waterborne diseases and rescue those still stranded. Well, thousands are now living in temporary aid camps, but there are fears of illness spreading fast, with an outbreak of chickenpox reported at one camp in Aluva. Whilst it's thought some 10,000 people remain trapped in towns and villages cut off by floodwater. In the town of Chenguna alone, 5,000 are thought to be trapped and in urgent need of help. Sky's Neville Lazarus has been able to reach the town with the country's National Disaster Response Force and sent this report.
They've left everything behind and who are waiting to be rescued. Neville Lazarus, Chenganur, Kerala.
A British woman's been rescued from the sea after falling off a cruise ship near Croatia. Sky's Charlotte Lomas has been covering the story. Charlotte, what more can you tell us?
Well, at the moment, we're waiting for more details to emerge. But just before midnight, a woman reportedly in her 40s fell into the water somehow of the Adriatic Sea, about 60 miles off the coast of Croatia near Pula. And she was somehow able to survive in that water for 10 hours before she was rescued by the Croatian Coast Guard. Now, the captain of the ship that she was on, it was a Norwegian cruise liner, he said that the woman was exhausted when they found her. And they said that they're very happy to have saved her life. Now, she was on board that Norwegian cruise line called the Norwegian Star. We have a statement from them that they have said a report was made that a guest aboard Norwegian Star had gone overboard while the ship was returning to Venice. Now, as soon as the report was made to the ship, began a search and notified the appropriate authorities. We now know also that the ship will be delayed on her return to Venice. In terms of the lady, she was taken to hospital on Sunday. She said to not be in danger. A real tale of survival, this one. We're hoping to get a lot more details from this. We do know that the Croatian authorities are now scrolling through CCTV to work out exactly how she came to fall into the water.
OK, Charlotte, thank you. Well, let's take a look at some of the day's other news stories now. And Indonesia has been hit by another big earthquake. The US Geological Survey initially said it was a 7.2 magnitude tremor. They've now revised that down to 6.9, but it is still a big quake. And it struck off the tourist island of Lombok and is the second biggest earthquake of the day. Now, these pictures you're looking at are from the first quake today. That was a 5.2 magnitude quake. It caused buildings to shake. It triggered a small landslide. And the area has been hit by a number of powerful earthquakes in recent weeks. Well, one of the more powerful ones, which hit earlier this month, left more than 460 people dead. Up to 20,000 people may have been cleared to work with children and vulnerable adults without going through full security checks after Scotland Yard relaxed its vetting system. Documents leaked to the Sunday Times revealed that senior Met officers decided to temporarily halt their checks after being criticised for long delays in employees' approval to work. Korean families separated by war will be reunited this week. Delegations from North and South Korea arranged the meetings aimed at improving relations between the two sides. The government's expected to start publishing a series of papers on the possible consequences of a no-deal Brexit later on this week. They'll range from issues such as aviation safety to animal breeding and gun regulation, and include advice of businesses, people and public bodies. Well, it comes as Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab prepares to meet the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, on Tuesday. Well, our Deputy Political Editor Beth Rigby joins us now from Westminster. Good evening to you, Beth. Is this Project No Fear, as some are now saying?
Hi, Becky. Well, different campaign groups will no doubt weaponise these papers in the way they see fit. It's how she's going to find common ground between Westminster, Brussels and her civil service. OK, Beth, thank you. Now, Italy's president has demanded a guarantee that all of the country's roads are safe following the bridge collapse in Genoa, which killed 43 people. Yesterday, the company which manages the highways said it will build a new bridge in 8 months. But Sky News has spoken to a structural engineer who says that's unrealistic and it could take years to replace, which could prove devastating for Genoa's economy as the motorway is the city's main link. Well, from Genoa, Sky's Caterina Bertozzi sent this report.
When you're told you have to leave your home, what do you pack? What do you need? Three of those that went onto this bridge and never came back. Caterina Bertozzi, Sky News in Genoa.
Now, we just got a bit of breaking news to bring you, and police are hunting for a man after 2 strangers were critically injured in what officers are describing as a horrific street attack. The 2 women, they're 64 and 30 years old. They've got injuries consistent with that of a violent assault, police are saying. They're fighting for their lives in hospital, and it means that police are now looking for a man called Joe Zwereb. He's 27 years old. He's said to have mental health issues, and police are saying he shouldn't be approached. We'll bring you the very latest on that as and when we get it. You're watching Sky News. Coming up, how Venezuela's president is preparing to try to save the country's economy. Welcome back. Let's cross over now to the Sky Sports News Centre for an update.
Hello there. Coming up in the sport at 20 past. News of a debut win on the European Tour for that man, Paul Waring. We'll see you at 5:45.
A bit later on, thank you. Now, Venezuela's president says his country is in an economic war as thousands of people try to leave amid growing instability. A major currency overhaul will take place tomorrow, one of a number of measures that Nicolas Maduro hopes will pull the country out of the crisis. But international experts fear it'll make little difference. Well, the UN says in the last 2 years, a worsening economic climate has forced more than 2 million people to flee to neighbouring countries, including Ecuador. Well, now stricter border controls brought in by Ecuador and Peru have left many stranded in Colombia. Sky senior correspondent David Bowden has this report.
Locals in the Brazilian border town of Pacaraima took the law into their own hands and future. David Bowden, Sky News.
Joining me now from Durham in North Carolina is Patrick Duddy, the director of the Centre for Latin American and Caribbean Studies at Duke University and former United States ambassador to Venezuela. Very good evening to you. First things first, I suppose, will this currency make any difference?
I don't think it will make much of a difference. They're going to lop off 5 zeros from the currency. But as your correspondent just mentioned, there is considerable confusion as to how that will be managed. And beyond all of that, there are a whole series of other factors that will affect both the purchasing power of the currency, both old and new, and the quality of life on the ground in Venezuela.
In David Bowden's report earlier on, we heard one lady say that she thinks it will lead to chaos. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Well, I think it's already pretty chaotic in Venezuela, which is why upwards of 2.5 million people have already left. And I've heard fairly serious analysts argue that the number may actually be closer to 3.5 to 4 million people that have left. As it is, there are food shortages, medical shortages, and most recently, dramatic problems with the electrical grid and the water system. If the next phase of the government's heretofore entirely failed attempt to manage the crisis is handled badly, things could certainly get worse.
President Maduro is blaming outsiders, opposition plots, US sanctions. Has he got a point?
No. Recent estimates of oil production in Venezuela underscore that since President Chavez was elected 20 years ago, the production of oil has fallen by more than 2 million barrels. When he came into office, they were producing about 3.4 million. Most recently, they were producing under 1.4 million. And because oil accounts for 96% more or less of hard currency earnings and over 50% of the government's budget, that is, at the heart of what's going on. Now, the country's reserves, or estimates of their reserves, have in recent years spiked, but production has plummeted. At the same time, their socioeconomic program basically forced the expropriation or the nationalization of many of the other heavy industries in the country, and almost everything that the government has taken over has failed. And so they are left with only one really productive sector, and that sector is functioning at only about 40% of capacity, and possibly lower than that. In the meantime, the U.S., which is the largest market for Venezuelan crude, the U.S. continues to buy crude from Venezuela.
So how much support does President Maduro have in Venezuela?
It's a little bit hard to say, but most people estimate that it is under 30%, maybe, and that may correlate with the very substantial part of the population that now depends almost entirely on the government for survival.
OK, Patrick Duddy, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
Time now to get a check on all the latest weather.
By the springtime flowers of a mountain lake, to the first snowfall on a winter's day.
It'll be quite cloudy tomorrow with a few fairly isolated showers, but there will be some sunny outbreaks. Before then, though, it will be mainly dry this evening, but Ireland can expect the odd shower, whilst eastern Scotland may see a few drizzly outbreaks. Most places will stay dry overnight, but the far north of Scotland will have a few showers, whilst Ireland will see a little patchy, drizzly rain. That'll extend into Wales and southwest England later on. There'll also be some fog on southwestern coasts and hills too. It'll be fairly muggy for many, cooler and fresher over Scotland. Looking ahead to the morning then, it looks like being fairly cloudy with a few light showers possible. That's over Ireland, southern Britain and northern Scotland. But most places they will be dry and there'll be plenty of sunny spells. It'll be quite warm and humid in the south, especially the southeast, cooler in the far north. Showers will develop more widely during the afternoon, but most places will stay dry. Tuesday will bring evening rain to the northwest and the odd shower elsewhere.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
You're watching Sky News. Coming up, why growing numbers of young people are feeling drawn to a career in the church. You're watching Sky News. The top stories this hour. At least 350 people have died in Kerala state. As many as 1 million have been left homeless after days of unusually heavy monsoon rain. A British woman's been rescued from the sea after falling off a cruise ship near Croatia. Police are hunting for a man after 2 strangers were critically injured in what officers are describing as a horrific street attack in South London. Efforts made by the Church of England to ensure successors to its population of ageing vicars appear to be paying off. The latest figures show the number of young people applying to become Anglican priests has risen by almost 1/3 in the last 2 years. Well, the number of people getting ordained who are under 32 years old has risen by 32% in the last 2 years. According to Church of England forecast, 29% of trainees this year will be under 32. And 54% of trainees this year are women, the highest ever proportion.
As ever, the church is diversifying, isn't it? And so women previously, you know, if we go back historically, they weren't able to have that kind of role, to play that kind of role in the church. So perhaps the fact that they are able to do that now is that has an appeal, that they're finally able to do that. But I think it's, yeah, really exciting that women are making up the greater proportion of people going and training for the ministry.
The church and the faith are becoming a bit more cooler again, and I've been in the position where I've been training to be a minister for the last year in Manchester, and I've seen a great rise in people coming because they're realising that there is a place for them in the church, there is a place for them with a collar, and there is a place where they can train, be around other young people and proclaim the love and news of God. Me being 21, I want to be a part of making that church for a different world. An inclusive church, a safe church, a church for the future. The Church of England is prayerfully moving in with the times, and we've got a long way to go, but with the help of young people like myself and many others, not only within ordained ministry but with lay ministry, we'll be able to get there and give that church the next 50 years which it needs, and more so.
It's been the hottest, driest summer since 1976, with average June temperatures of around 19 degrees Celsius. But as scientists tell us such extreme weather patterns are here to stay, there are now concerns about whether the UK can manage ever-decreasing water availability. Environmental charities say our resources are in crisis, and it's up to all of us to learn more about how to manage them. Lorna Shattuck's been finding out more.
The sound of an English summer. And Stephen Loisel's team are here to try and make sure it doesn't disappear. More will want to look after them and make sure they don't disappear. Lorna Shattuck, Sky News.
A hospital in Arizona has found itself with an unexpected staffing problem as 16 of its intensive care nurses are all pregnant at the same time. Well, many of the staff are due to give birth between October and January, but apparently the hospital's already budgeted for such a large-scale absence.
We all kind of formulated a plan to have the holidays off.
It was me and then found out one other girl. It was just the two of us. We're like, oh, this is so exciting.
Now, latest figures show that adults in the UK check their smartphones on average every 12 minutes. But countering that trend is a rise in sales of so-called dumb phones. Now, these take technology right back to the basics because all you can do on them is actually make a call. Sky's Becky Johnson has been finding out why so many more people are using them.
It's new, old-fashioned technology that's catching on. Dumb phones are phones that, well, just call people, switching off from our busy lives. Becky Johnson, Sky News.
This is Sky News. Coming up, how it's all gone so bad. Welcome back. Let's cross over now to the Sky Sports News Centre for an update.
Who got anywhere just running around? Present company accepted, of course. Your Majesty.
This programme is brought to you by Vitality Health and Life Insurance. Getting active brings its own rewards.
Thanks, Becky. Good afternoon. The latest from an action-packed day in the Premier League to come. But first, Paul Pogba's just smashed in a penalty for Manchester United to make it 3-2, but they are deep into stoppage time. It may be too little too late for United. 3-2 to Brighton. You'll get reaction over on Sky Sports News, and we're back later.
Help! Help! I'm surrounded by sausages.
Now let's get a check on the weather, shall we?
Beneath pink skies by the Taj Mahal, or as the sun sets in the City of Angels.
It'll be quite cloudy tomorrow with a few isolated showers, but there will be some sunny outbreaks as well. Before then, it'll be mainly dry this evening, but Ireland can expect the odd shower, whilst eastern Scotland may see a few drizzly outbreaks. Most places will stay dry overnight, but the far north of Scotland will have a few showers, whilst Ireland will see a little patchy drizzly rain. That'll extend into Wales and southwest England later. There will be some fog on southwestern coasts and hills too, and it will be fairly muggy for many, cooler and fresher over Scotland.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.